David, nice to be here at Happy Quail Farm, and I'd love for you to just tell us what we're sitting in the middle of here.
Well, this is our high-tech, it's called a crop protection system. They don't even call it a greenhouse anymore. It's actually a retractable roof and retractable shade, computer-controlled, environmentally controlled growing system.
Tell me about what basically goes on here at Happy Quail Farm in East Palo Alto. What are you growing here?
Our primary product is peppers. We started, I grew up on a very large farm in Florida and got kind of fed up with peppers early on. I never thought I'd want to be near them again, but I came out here and one thing after another I kind of tried. I ended up starting to farm in '78, and I tried a lot of different things, and what ended up being the product that I was able to do best was peppers. We tried tomatoes, we grew eggplant for years. I tried, at one time I was growing 10 kinds of mint. I had a bedded tarragon, 150 foot long, and we made, a little money on that, but it was peppers that seemed to be the thing that was that we could do best. And what took it's actually it's a hand labor crop, but it's one that doesn't take an enormous amount of skill once you know the basic issues to keep track of.
So you don't grow just any peppers. What's your premier pepper?
Well, this one we're sitting next to here has become this actually represents 50% of our gross nowadays, is just a Pimiento de Padrón. It's a Pimientos de Padrón, or a variety that was taken back to Portugal right around the time, not long after Columbus discovered the Americas, and was grown in the north of Spain. And it's a non-hybrid type, and I think they had pretty lousy growing conditions too, so they never really were able to get very big peppers. And they found that if they picked this hot type at a small size, it had a nice flavor, and it became a tapa of the region. And it was just sort of a coincidence that one of my foodie friends brought me a packet of seed back because someone in Spain had actually said, he grows all these peppers, why doesn't he grow this one? Before that, I used to grow just bells and these long white types that are called cubanelles, and we did 5 colors, we did hot types, but we had never even tried these.
You then decided to really go into this business. Are you, in fact, the last commercial farm in East Palo Alto?
Pretty much, although I think there is still a farm, it's called Cal Fern, a commercial fern company that has a small greenhouse around the block. But virtually all the greenhouses are gone. One of the last ones I was renting was converted into Phoenix Academy, where my wife works. So I was farming there. It was like, wait a second, you're taking my farmland to make a school. I don't think that's... But I've got my eyes on little spots here and there. I sort of co-opt my way into people's backyards. I've become sort of the land steward of East Palo Alto. I've got 2 widows and a widower over on Chembry who let me take care of their backyards in exchange for nothing more than keeping their pump in working order and a few cucumbers. They really, they're just so happy to have me. I feel guilty, but they don't know, they don't want money. So, it's one of those things. They're small lots. None of our lots are bigger than quarter acre. This lot here that we own is a half-acre. I have 2 bachelors that rent me their backyard. Actually, again, it's not a rent, it's an agreement between us. They let me farm their backyard in exchange for keeping their yard. We mow their grass and trim their hedge, and that's the deal. They let us farm there. They're very happy too, because they're the grandchildren of the family that used to farm there, and they feel like it's sort of retaining the agricultural heritage that their grandfather used to have there. And right now there's not as much pressure. They were thinking they were going to have to sell it for development, but things have worked out to where it looks like we'll be able to keep farming there for a good while to come.
So this is a really interesting question. We're sitting right behind IKEA and all of that development. There's increasing pressure on land prices here, and yet it sounds like you and people in the community are not only managing to keep going, but to thrive as a farming operation.
Well, it's one of those things. So we've tried a lot of different things, and basically by finding something that no one else does is what we've been able to do. We can't grow a simple green bell pepper and make any money, or we couldn't grow, I've had people, why don't we grow collards, for example? Collards are very popular in the community, but unfortunately, there's no money in collards. I have to grow a product that has a relatively high yield and a long harvest period. We're able to grow cucumbers, peppers, a lot of unusual stuff, but peppers we pick from May to sometimes all the way into January the following season if the weather cooperates, by using this kind of a simple passive solar system. We can sometimes, if the weather isn't too bad, continue well past any sort of normal field period. And so by having this simple system, we start earlier and go later than all the field growers, and we have product that just isn't seen elsewhere. Nobody grows as many varieties of peppers as I do. I can actually confidently say I'm probably the most diverse pepper farmer in the U.S., maybe in the world. And I certainly am probably the most filmed. If nothing else, I'm in San Francisco. Our display is photographed by the hundreds every day by tourists, and by we've had Japanese weddings and you name it in front of our stand. Even Gavin Newsom likes to stand in front of our stand when he's being filmed, and politicians and stuff. So
you've figured out this way of kind of piecing together through kind of a sharing economy approach the land, and then you figured out these products that are not they're you can be really efficient about it, and you can also find something, as you said, no one else has. What else is it about what you do that you would say is different? Because when you look around this greenhouse, you've got rhubarb, you've got those little tiny strawberries. Talk about your experimentation, kind of your innovation with what you're doing.
So as I said, when we started out, we tried everything, and we ended up feeding a lot of it to the chickens. My 5 kinds of mint didn't fly. I mean, I was growing hyssop, flowering hyssop, and old, Jessie Cool would say, well, why are you, I'll buy flowers, but, she'd buy 10 flowers, and I had a whole row. It's like it wasn't doing any good. So, they were very limited, and people didn't know what to do with them. I used to grow passion fruit, which is a new product I'm growing again, but the problem was here in Palo Alto, people didn't know what they were, and there wasn't a market. Now that I've been doing it for 35 years, I sort of have been around now as this farmers market system grew. So I was able to kind of get in on the ground floor into all the best markets. At one time, we were doing 9 farmers markets a week. We were doing Los Gatos, we were doing Sunnyvale, we were doing Mountain View, we were doing Saratoga, we were doing San Mateo, we were doing, it was ridiculous. And a lot of those markets, we really weren't making enough money to even pay my time, when I started looking at what we were doing. So we started getting more strategic in our marketing and focusing on our best markets, and people would come to find us. So now, we can kind of brag. We probably have more Michelin-rated chefs buying our product in San Francisco, and more people know if we're at a market, rather than going to all 3 of the Palo Alto markets that exist now, we only do the old senior center market, and we do the Menlo Park on Sunday. So we're there on both days, but everyone says, well, why don't we do the South Palo Alto? And it's like, we don't need any more outlets in the area. It's only 5 miles away. People can come to the Menlo Park market and see us. All we be doing is splitting our clientele. What's happened is, as the market, farmers market system expanded, every community wanted their own market. And it's a wonderful idea, but for a small farmer like me, I had to go to a market where I knew where people could find me, and where there was a demand for my product that would actually pay for my time.
It's been a real family operation. Yeah. You have 2 kids, and so I wonder what it's been like for your family and your kids being raised in a farming family and going to school in Palo Alto in the midst of the high-tech universe. What's that been like?
It's a very different sort of thing, and especially with just the economic difference, of course, between living on this side of the track and the other. It was the same when I grew up in South Florida. When I was a child in South Florida, our bus stop was the last one in the evening and the first one in the morning. We were 10 miles from town. Now my father's in the middle. The front half of our farm has been turned into a tertiary treatment wetlands. We have alligators and birds and people out there painting pictures and stuff. But we're surrounded by houses. So farms in the United States have been losing to cities all along. And my feeling is that if we can't find a way of incorporating agriculture into an urban environment, we're not going to survive as a people. And I think it's it's important, and people understand that there is a difference between local grown and stuff that's coming from Mexico and China and these other countries or places where, so far away. And so what we want to do is show people the difference between a fresh local product that of a unique value compared to a commercial just off the shelf.
You sound as committed as ever to doing this, despite all this economic temptation perhaps around and maybe some of the challenges. Is that true?
That's true, and actually we've just found out this year, which I should have found out long ago, that one of the few value-added things we hadn't tried was processing. So we have a kitchen in San Francisco, and we may be I've actually applied to one of these big funding companies called Harley Stanfield for a $10 million grant so that we could actually buy a few more farms and actually set up a professional bottling and processing plant right here, where we could actually pickle our peppers and make. I know enough farmers now from doing markets over the years. I've got a farmer in Sebastopol that can supply me with unfiltered apple cider vinegar. I've got a farmer in Fresno that has beautiful onions and garlic. So I can put together sauces that are just outstanding.
And you're holding something.
Yeah, this is one of our new ones. Habanero is our hottest pepper we grow, and so we've come out with a whole line of new sauces. This is the first time this season. We've got padrones, for example. We started with 11 years ago. Nobody had them. I was cold calling restaurants all over the country to find out Spanish restaurants, to see if they would like them, and sending them free boxes to try. And they didn't even know what they were. I'd have to explain how to cook them.
What do you wish people knew about you?
People often come up to me and said, "Are you organic?" And depending on my mood, I'll tell them just to go take a hike, that ultimately organic is just a buzzword and it has nothing to do with food quality. That a lot of big farms have monopolized that, and it has no meaning. So it has nothing to do with food quality or safety, has nothing to do with water quality or protection of the aquifers. And that's what I think we really should be thinking about, is what's important in a sustainable farming environment, is what can we do to keep the earth livable, not whether it's organic or not, because ultimately they're very simple ways of, plants need nutrition just like you do, and if I can give them a potassium nitrate shot through my drip line that'll take care of potassium and nitrogen deficiency, it's a lot better to do that than it is to risk contaminating or bothering bats or contaminating the plants with something that might have coliform or some other bacterial issues.
Here's another one for you. What's the road not taken for you? If you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing?
I don't know. I tried a lot of things. When I dropped out of school, I finished college in just a year. I decided I was going to be a chemistry major, and I decided that wasn't my field at all. So I went up to Wisconsin and I did barn and silo construction for a little while, and then I moved to North Carolina and I apprenticed as a glass blower. And I thought when I came out here, the previous apprentice was setting up a studio in Berkeley, and I was seriously considering glass blowing. But I found that it's a lot easier to grow stuff that looks like art than it is to actually think about and how to make it. So I call myself an artisanal pepper grower because I can grow peppers that look like nothing anyone's ever seen, and I get the credit for it even though the plant actually did the work.
What's ahead for Happy Quail Farms?
Well,
your sons have
flown the coop, yeah.
Flown the coop. The chickens are here, but the
That's right.
The offspring are sprung off.
It's very likely that that they will find other things to do. I certainly, I may actually now with this new pepper processing thing, may go back to my father because he still has 75 acres in South Florida, which I could then set up to actually start growing peppers like Buttigilokia under a similar system. Florida, these peppers, a lot of these unusual hot peppers need long seasons and they need protection from weather. So this retractable system, I was the first in the world actually to use this for vegetable production. And the great thing about it is I get the best of both. I grow it in the soil just like you would outdoors, and yet I can control the environment completely. I can determine what humidity, what temperature, how much light, all those things, and protect the crop so it gets the environment that it likes. And it's taken me years to figure out what it do like. What are the important factors in growing peppers? Is it more important to keep them warm, or is it better to let them have more sun, or is it those kind of things?
So it sounds like you have innovated a lot. I mean, again, here in Silicon Valley, we're known for innovation, and that you're doing that all the time using technology.
Yeah, this is the very latest.
Yeah, the very latest. and that you've got a lot of different, I mean, we walked by some watercress and rhubarb and some, what do you call the strawberries?
Fraise du bois.
Fraise du bois.
Des bois. I'm
Des
sorry.
bois.
My
Des
wife
bois.
always corrects me. It's not one forest, it's the whole forest.
So you've got a lot of different, using every nook and cranny and using technology, vertical growing, all those kinds of things. Anyway, it's really great to see, and from everything I can tell, you're not even starting to slow down.
Right
I would say,
it's getting
to the
more.
contrary.
This is a whole new thing. I mean, I do feel like I'm starting over again with now that this processing is taking off. It's a bit of a shock. I'm always asked to talk about the future of farming, and it's difficult. People don't realize the millions of dollars it takes to set up and run. I couldn't have done this without my parents' help. Banks looked at me and said, "What do you mean? You make all your money in June, July?" They couldn't understand them. Basically, from December until May or June, I'm just sort of waiting for things to grow. I have no income, so I have to make all it's all clumped together from July, August, and September, our big months. So banks looked at me and just laughed. And if as I said, if it hadn't been for my father sort of helping us to get the initial expenses, this structure ended up costing almost $500,000 just to set up and purchasing the land. Even when it was cheap. I mean, we bought this in '94. Now that's why I'm saying we're applying for a $10 million loan, because now this is $1 million acre country, and my father can't believe that you can make money on $1 million an acre. But you've got to figure just as a capital investment. Yeah. So you really got to just put that money up and shut up and
grow peppers.
Grow peppers.
All right.
That's right.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Thank you.